Good evening. This is Moses Ross, President of the Multnomah Neighborhood Association, and we are conducting a special M&A board meeting tonight, September 24th, 2024, for estimated time of 1 hour. We have a relatively short agenda here. The agenda, the agenda has been available on the public folder, and I can read it to everybody and we can make sure that it's up to date and don't need to add anything else. We have 5 items that we wanted to discuss tonight on the agenda. The first one being the District 4 Coalition membership. Beth will be talking. We'll be taking a vote on that. There's a motion that's also in the public folder that you can look at, and I'll read it when we get there. Second is approving the financial standing rules, and also a board vote will be taking that. And we'll go over all of that. Third, the transferring of the M&A funds from Sweeney to us. We'll have a vote on that, and I'll explain. Fourth, discussion of, not a vote, but a discussion on designation for donor restrictions. We'll have a little conversation on that, and it kind of relates to the Sweeney funds being transferred over. And then finally, we can have I'd like to have a casual conversation. No decisions need to be made here, but what's our goals for the upcoming year, 2025 M&A goals? We want to get it down on paper and kind of know where we're going. This has already been such an amazing year for the Neighborhood Association. It's amazing. The amount of work that we've been doing and the amount of good that we've been doing in the neighborhood is being noticed. And Sunday Parkways was just a fine example of it. I was really thrilled on how well we all did on Sunday Parkways. And thank you, everyone that came to the booth or did a shift or helped us break down or stuff. We got a really good response from the community. So,
Moses,
yes.
did you send out an email saying that you wanted to add something else to the agenda to vote on? But I don't remember what it was.
No, actually, there's, I don't think we have anything else, but that's not covered in what I just recited.
Yeah, the number 3, transferring the M&A funds, also includes moving over the Friends of Spring Garden Park as a restricted fund.
True.
No, that wasn't it, but that's okay. If you don't.
I'll double check my email, but I don't think so, Beth. I hope not.
Okay. It was just something you said that we would have to vote on that too, which I didn't think it was on the agenda, but I could be wrong.
Okay, let's get to it. Yeah, I apologize. For not being clear. Let's dive right into what you're doing, Beth. I know that you've been keeping track of what's been going on with the District 4 Coalition, and many thanks to you for that. Let's talk about where they're at and what we need to do as a board.
It's my pleasure. I enjoy being our representative there, although I'm not a board member yet. We'll see what happens after the vote. It's just some of the city gave us this problem. I'll have to start with that. They assigned us to Northwest without any conversation among all of the parties involved, and that's what we got. Now, they're having some struggle transitioning to include 32 neighborhoods when they used to just have, I think, 11. So I empathize with the struggle that they're having. And we're struggling to try to fit in and have a voice in all of that. For example, one committee, their old committee was land use transportation, and those of us in Southwest are used to that being 2 separate committees, and we have reasons why that is so, and we hope to change their minds about that. But we've been having some problems with them making decisions and putting people on committees and executive boards and making decisions without us having a chance to do that. So I think that that's just part of the problems of transition, but it feels like red flags to us. We'll see what happens. I think that I don't think we really have a choice about becoming a member, because if we don't become a member, then we don't, again, have standing with the city. It's a city-sponsored coalition and city-funded for the most part. And that's another thing. They're having a problem because they did not get proper funding from the city. If we do get to join the coalition, then maybe we'll have a voice with the city about getting more funding. Like I think they kept the funding the same as they had before, but then added on these 20-something associations. So I think the people that have been most impacted are the ones those of us in Southwest. We're used to running things a different way because we were with Sweeney for so long, and now we're going to be District 4 coalition, and it's a lot of growing pains. But does anyone have questions?
That's a really good way of putting it, that it's the growing pains too, Beth. You know, and just to expand on one of your points, you know, they have an annual budget that they had for their 11 neighborhoods previously. They've now been asked to expand that to 32, 33, and they got $40,000 in additional funding. And their previous budget was about $300,000, $400,000. So they're expected to almost triple their coverage for pittance. It's very frustrating. But having said that, you know, things can change come a new council. That's for sure, as far as funding, but that's where it's at right now. So I think I understood.
Yes, and so much that the old council gave us this, and that we'll see what happens when the new council comes in. We'll see how much support the various districts get.
Yeah, you know how
It's
I
gonna be a
feel
whole new
about
world
this.
for us, of us. But I've been I'm involved in a back channel of neighborhood associations from the old Sweeney neighborhood associations. So I think we will work together to try to have our voices heard in the district.
Beth, Corinne has her hand up. Go ahead, Corinne.
Thank you. Thanks, Beth, for all your work on this to gain information and be a representative for us with District 4 to understand what's happening with the organization. I think my questions are simple. What do we gain from becoming members of District 4 outside of what I heard you said is potentially a stronger voice in the city? Like, do we, when we were supported by Civic Life, with the community activity funds, we had enough to support just our baseline expenses to stay alive as an organization. And I think I've heard quoted that we would have potentially like $500 from District 4. I'm not sure where I heard that, so don't quote. I don't know if that's right or not. But, you know, like, would District 4 absorb our Zoom account and share so we wouldn't have to pay for that bill? Could they take over our website hosting so that we could still maintain running our own website, but it would be paid for by District 4, or we would be underneath their umbrella? Could we have mail sent to their office versus having to pay for a post office box? And what are so outside of those are my big questions of just like what it takes for us to survive at the bare minimum as a 501c3. So what do we gain from it? And what are the potential downsides as they're figuring out their organization and they're absorbing all these neighborhood associations, and it's a lot of transition. And is there a time limit? Like, what if we wait until the new year to join after they iron out some of the kinks or something to that effect? So Beth, I'm not sure. That's a lot of questions thrown at you at once, but I don't know if you have any thoughts on
How to answer
where
those
I'm going with
one
that.
by
Yeah,
one.
sure.
And please remind me if I forget one.
Sure. I know I threw a lot at you.
I might be going backwards here. I don't
Sure.
think that we would want to have our mail go to their post office, because somebody would have to schlep downtown to get our mail.
Mhm.
So for
We pay
better options,
100, we pay like $200 a year for it, just for context.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, you're right about the 500, maybe
Okay.
500 something dollars that we will be getting from them.
Okay.
We could turn our website over to them, but we'll report on that. I don't think that we want to do that.
Yeah, would we lose control of it? Because I think we do a lot of
We don't wanna-
updates.
Can,
Okay.
like, we can send them information about, like, their website could be like how the Sweeney paper used to be, where we can send them articles or events, things that they can post about us on their
Sure.
website. So
Yeah.
that will be publicity for, through the whole district and the whole city.
Yeah,
Um,
I think sorry, just to add on to that, more of my question would be, would they have like Squarespace is who we operate our website through. Do they have a bundle that they could host all of the neighborhood associations and we could still maintain control of our own, but maybe as a package deal, it'd be cheaper for them to, own all the websites. If
Yeah,
that
they're
makes
not
any
gonna-
sense. They're not gonna do
They're
that.
not
Okay,
gonna, they're not gonna pay for anybody's website.
got it.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
very firm about that.
Okay.
Okay, what else did you ask me?
Well, what
Um,
else so I think just operating expenses is what I'm curious about. So we get $500, but there's not much else that they could offer to help us slim down what we have to pay annually to stay alive, like a Zoom account. Like, could they extend a Zoom account to all the NAs, like I think Sweeney did in the past, where we could save $140 a year on our Zoom account?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna refer that question over to Will when he's gonna he's gonna
Okay.
give another part of our report, because he
Okay.
talked to he's our IT connection to for, so
Okay.
he can answer some of those questions. But what else
Okay.
did you ask? Oh, I
Well, I
don't know,
mean,
the
like-
advantage.
Yeah, advantages outside of
There are 14
insurance
neighborhood
Mhm.
associations that have not joined yet.
Okay,
We could wait. The problem with waiting is that we don't have a voice on the board. We don't have a vote on the board.
okay. I
Um,
see. So,
Yeah, so we
okay,
could wait, but, like I said, we don't have any sway with them, if we aren't part of them.
okay.
Like, I can
Beth?
attend their meetings, I go to their meetings, but it's a
You can't
little iffy
Vote.
whether I want to say
Yeah.
something, do I have a right to say something,
And
can't
you
weigh in
feel
on
in
a-
those meetings that there's opportunity for us to have voice in that? Like, do you feel like that's lacking from your perspective as being the liaison with D4, is not having voting power? Like, there's a lot of things we'd want to pitch in on or have
Exactly.
opportunity. Okay, thank
We
you.
want to vote on their expenses. We want to vote, on how they run their expenses. We're a little
Mhm.
fuzzy about that. They have 3 different accounts and can't quite figure out what's going on there. So we would
Okay.
like to be able to advocate for them. I don't want to say anything bad about them, but it's a
Sure,
concern of ours. Just want to know how they're doing all their funding and, have a voice in that.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
one and
And
also
then-
what, and
Go ahead,
I know I've been advocating, of course, nobody's going to be surprised at this, that I've been advocating for them to make their website accessible
Yeah.
since the very beginning of being a rep there. And so far they have their new website up and it's fancy at all, but it does look accessible. But they haven't put graphics up yet, so I'm waiting to see what they're going to do on that.
Hey, Beth,
But I think
this,
they're on that, in that regard. Anyway, I'd like to turn this over to Will so he could talk about IT.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you. Let me know if you have more questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. And if I
Sounds
don't
good.
know the answer, find out and get back with
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, this is Will. Hi. On the IT thing, I had a conversation a while back with Carl Hines of D4C, who is their IT connection, among other things. And they offered a whole bunch of services. They don't really support our kind of software as a website. And there are certain areas that we may or may not want to get involved with. But the one thing that was intriguing was he said, that actually the coalitions are required by ONI standards or the city to provide a backup of our workspace, all of our documents, our Google documents. And it's not like it's an option that they need to do it. That would give them access to all of our documents. And I'm not sure how secure that is. I need to talk with Carl a little more on this. It says, do you simply have it in a space, or can you actually look at the documents? Because there are some things like our around members and financials and so on that we have restricted only to certain people. I was concerned in the conversation that we not wind up being dragooned into doing something for them, or have them require us to do something would be contrary to our needs. And there really was nothing much in the conversation that was as scary as I thought it might be. Yeah, I don't know how much detail you want to get into, but basically I have an ongoing conversation with Carl. They do need our support in getting anything done. They're real thin-staffed, and as everyone has said, they've tripled the size of the organization with not much money and a small staff. I can bring up the conversation notes, if you will. They're in the meeting materials, but I don't know how much detail you want to go into. Corinne, you had some specifics, but you want to say something you would like some information on, and I can provide that rather than going through a laundry list of things.
I'll get back to you on it, Will, I think.
Okay.
So we can
Okay.
take it offline. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all
thanks.
pretty, right, the sum and a nut of it, the one thing which might be a security issue or a jurisdictional issue is providing the backups, although it's a useful service for us if it's properly protected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One quick question to follow up on continuing the conversation on D4, Beth, that I didn't quite ask, and Will, I don't want to cut into if you still have more IT stuff to talk about, but
Oh, no.
outside of D4, going through their transition, are there downsides of us joining, and can we air those out a little bit on maybe some things that we wouldn't necessarily be obvious, but what might be limiting to our organization, like if we have to get approval from something on D4 to make decisions on our end, or, you know, I think when we were part of Sweeney took care of us and took care of all the logistics of our organization, but which means that we didn't have to do it on our own, which I think is what atrophied the M&A a little bit. And so because we have to hold ourselves up to the standards and to our new bylaws and the rules of the 501c3, we're almost held to that as an organization, and making sure we're recruiting volunteers that will keep those standards up and keep us afloat. And so I think that's one thing that I worry about slightly, is if we join D4, that we'll start to atrophy a little bit as an organization, because we'll be cared for by D4 and lose some of that independence that we have.
It's a really great question. I think it's really important and we've talked, the other people that I talked to, former Sweeney associations, we all are interested in maintaining our independence. They've asked us for information about board members, that information that we don't even have. So that's one thing. I don't know if you and I have talked about that yet, Will. Yeah, or how you felt about that. It was a little asking for TMI from them. But we can run our organization the way we always did. We can be part of them as well. And I want to bring up that duty of loyalty clause that's in the membership form. That sounded yucky, because we asked, well, if there's an issue that we disagree with, is our duty to the D4C or to our neighborhood association? Well, D4C thinks it's to them, and we believe it's to us. And so that is something that the people I've been talking to, we're willing to sign that as part of becoming a member, but that might be tested over the next year. We'll see what happens. A lot of this will be testing over the next year. I think that although they have not told us that this is an agreement that is a marriage contract for the rest of our lives, I would like us to look at it as for the next year, maybe through a budget cycle, and then see how we feel about staying in the association.
Yeah.
This is Moses. I just want to put this little perspective out. Our relationship previously with Sweeney was based off of need. That we needed them as a fiscal sponsor. We needed them for their assistance tech-wise. We needed them for X and Y. One of the reasons that we turned into a 501c3 was because we decided to take on those responsibilities. Many of those responsibilities by choice or not, but we decided to take those on. I think that we have the challenge that I think we have about being a District 4 coalition member is the Civic Life Code. They mandate that for a recognized neighborhood association to be a part of a coalition, to be a part of a district coalition, because that's part of the pathway of the communication from the neighborhood to the city. And it's actually mandated in code. So we need to take that into account, because if we don't become members, we're going to be certainly we're declaring our independence, and that has ramifications. And I don't know if we'd be legal in regards to that, at least in regards to the code. So
We also may remember what that felt like when Sweeney got removed from the city. That didn't feel good for any of us to be excluded from the city.
Mm-hmm. Hi, this is Peter, and I just had a couple of comments. One, I haven't heard anyone mention what to me is the principal advantage of joining the coalition, and that is directors and officers liability insurance. Now, I have not gone out to shop the marketplace for what it would cost us as an independent 501c3 to provide our own liability insurance for officers and directors. And quite frankly, I think we're in a risk category that's pretty low. We're not construction workers, and we're not skydiving instructors. But that is to me, a huge advantage. And I've talked to a couple other neighborhood associations, and for them, that was really the primary decider. On the question of conflict, conflict of loyalty.
Duty of
think,
Loyalty, yeah.
Sorry, what is it?
Duty of loyalty.
Duty of loyalty. This is maybe a question for our parliamentarian. It's more just about the mechanics of being in a situation of conflict. And I'm wondering if we could simply, when we see that kind of a conflict, abstain, and we lose our voice, we lose our vote, but we maintain our independence. And I don't know if that's a proper thing to do. Oh,
It's something we could do. We've talked about that.
yeah, Julie says, if you'd read it, you would know that. Anyway.
I mean, this is a really good discussion. I think there's, certainly pros and cons to doing it, but for me, it's adherence to the city code. I do like your out on the loyalty clause, Peter. I hadn't thought about that. Just abstain from that particular vote.
We have thought about, that's been a discussion among the back channel.
Yeah. And I will say this too, my observations, I'm really, many of the former Sweeney neighborhood representatives have gone into it kind of defensively, but and I think that defensiveness also came from the D4 from Neighbors West Northwest, because, this is the way we've done it. And, everybody, this is the way we've always done it. Sweeney, the old Sweeney neighborhood said that, and D4 saying that. But I'm noticing, though, that there's more collaboration. Like Marianne Fitzgerald was talking about, the development, we were talking about the development of the bylaws at one of these meetings. she brought up some really valid points. It was undeniable that the folks from the Southwest neighborhoods were experienced in working with a coalition and knew how to form the proper committees so that everybody does have a voice. So I think it
And her
comes back-
neighborhood association just signed on to the district last week.
This is Julie. There is a list of member benefits. If I can read them real quick, if that's okay. So it says general liability insurance covered, directors and officers insurance covered, fiscal sponsorship, which we don't care about because we're a 501c, mailing lists and website IT support when needed, so not as fancy as we'd like, free trainings defined by board of directors, okay, voting privileges regarding decisions impacting the organization, that's to Beth's point, priority and small grant distributions has my interest, $500 stipend, that's where you heard that, Corinne, access to a nonprofit attorney and accountant that understands your organization. There may be, hold on, there may be costs affiliated with this benefit.
And they will,
Go ahead,
and
Beth.
they have a lawyer on, and they spend a lot of money on legal fees.
The next one is benefactors at end of year revenue, if benefactors of end of year revenues, if available. Are they inferring they might give us money at the end of the year? Yeah, right. Okay, I'll hold my breath.
I think they're
Access to
referring to taxes forms.
taxes.
That's
Okay.
my understanding of that.
That's cool. Access to city information, issues and partners. Okay, vague. Coalition-wide advocacy for issues impacting the coalition. Okay. Free technical assistance on a range of subjects impacting your organization. That's vague. And then assistance with your taxes, Tad and Peter, in training on completing C12, 990s, all sorts of other things. So that's what they say the benefits are.
May I speak on a
saying
couple of those?
What they do is they offer trainings. They don't actually fill out the forms. So if we already know how to fill out the forms, we could do that. So
Well,
I don't see that as a benefit particularly.
if I
But
may,
as far as an officer's liability insurance, Peter, it's not necessarily that about somebody getting injured, whatever. We also are protected when people file grievances against the association, which we've experienced before.
Okay, Beth, I have Will with his hand raised, and then let's wrap up discussion here after Will's comment. Okay.
on the financial benefits, which are small, there is a $500 stipend for IT support in addition to our general stipend. And that money left over at the end of the year is not as trivial as you might think. When we were under the coordination from the actual civic life, they came back at the end of the year and said, we've got some small grant money left over, come and get it. It was a few $100s, but there was a little more than we could think. And in our size budget, we are, any dollar helps. Also, in our size budget, the tax forms are trivial. It's not a big deal. If we had to fill out a real 990, that would be another story. But we have to make $50,000 a year in order to get to that category.
And that's part of, right, and that's not that's part of the 3-year plan.
That's the deal. But so it seems like the one thing that's stickling for me is, are they going to be heavy-handed with us in terms of requiring us to do things that would be against our wishes? And if we abstain, that's one thing. I see that the benefits that come are, unfortunately, first of all, it's almost mandatory. If we don't have a direct connection through a coalition, we have a hard road to get to the city's attention in general, with the agencies and the bureaus we want to get to. So that duty of loyalty is an awkwardness. Personalities of the organization can always be an issue. We had a pretty cozy relationship with Sweeney. We don't know what we're going to have with D4C, but the people I've worked with individually have been cooperative. I honestly don't see how we can not join the coalition, especially to have a seat at the table when decisions are made and the other benefits that Julie read out. So I'm afraid our reservations are valid, but they're not controlling.
Very good.
Well,
Thank you, Will.
that they're going to just be tested. I think this is, I kind of view this like two people who have been living independently for 20 years and then decide to get married. It's going to be awkward until people decide, okay, well, we'll do it your way, or okay, we'll do it our way. I don't know if that was a good analogy, but it worked for me.
Yeah. It's a I hope it's not a marriage. And I don't
Well,
hope,
for
I
1
hope they don't
year.
have kids.
Oh, and they brought up, there was one point that you had talked to Carl about, and that was, you told him that we were looking for a grant to make our website accessible, and he would like to join with us in that, and I would be opposed to doing that.
Yeah, you wanted to
I don't
hold
think
off on that. Yeah.
Majorly involved with them, especially when money is over the next year. I think we should just stay as independent as possible.
Yeah. They would be, the reason for having them on was that we could get larger grants because it's a larger commitment on the part of the person supporting. Since we are on one platform and they're on another platform for IT, that really doesn't become such an advantage because they kind of have to split the difference anyway. So, but the idea is getting it something accessible, or more generally, getting a web page that's got some sophisticated hands making it happen is a useful thing. We may be able to support at a smaller cash outlay going on alone.
Okay, we're back. I apologize for that, folks. I don't know what you heard me say last, but I was confirming that we have 7 board members available here to vote, so we do have a quorum. And the motion on the table is to whether or not we should become members in the D4 coalition. So all those in
you wanna
favor
read-
of,
Do you have the
Pardon me?
motion up on your screen?
I don't. That's why I'm kind of slightly improvising it. I'm going to let Julie read it to me.
Beth,
Thank
it's what
you.
you wrote, correct?
Correct.
All right, I'm doing it right this time. We'll see.
Person to support the motion.
Right. The motion is board to determine if the MNA wishes to join District 4 coalition. If the board decides in the affirmative, it instructs the president and the MNA D4C representative to sign the required membership form and submit to the coalition office post haste.
Very good. Very good. Ah, even better. Who did that? That wasn't me. That must have been Will.
Who did what?
Oh, somebody put up on shared their screen and actually put the motion up. So now it's part of the record. And it was not me, so it must have been Will. So if a vote yay or in the affirmative would approve the motion, vote nay is against the motion. Let me ask this first. Is there anybody of the 7, are there any nay votes? Hearing none, I'd like to ask that we vote this in an acclamation. Yes, hearing no objection to that, this motion is passed, and it's passed through acclamation unanimously by the board. So,
Moses, you and I will have to get together and sign the paperwork together,
perfect, Beth.
and
Okay,
we could do that at my house if you, yes, please, at my house, so that, and then we can just scan it and send it right off to B4C.
you got it, Beth. Let me see. Let me just look at my calendar. Ooh, look at that. I think tomorrow is actually going to be a good day to do it too. Okay. Do you want to meet at your house at 1?
I'm not available between 2 and 5 tomorrow.
Between 2 and 5? Okay.
I'm
How
not
about-
available.
Okay. I'll
So
call
after
you.
that would be
After 5 o'clock then?
the best.
Got you. I see what you're saying, Beth. Okay.
Thank-
All right. Either Wednesday after 5 o'clock or Thursday. Yeah. Okay. We'll check our calendars offline.
Sounds good.
Peter just reminded me I'm wasting time here. Darn it. Okay. Sounds good. So that is the case. The motion has been approved. Let's get to agenda topic number 2, and that is the approving of the financial standing rules with a vote to be taken. And I'll pass the microphone over to Peter.
That wasn't wasting time. I would object to that. You and I have to make sure that gets done post haste, as per the motion.
No, agreed. I agree, Beth. That was important. And so we'll circle back around here real soon. Meanwhile,
Thank
let's
you.
get to this. Yes, thank you, hon. So standing rules, I'm passing it to Peter, our interim treasurer.
Thank you, Moses. The standing rules, financial standing rules are a group of sort of proposed policies and procedures for how we manage our financial affairs. They're based largely on the experience I've had since becoming a treasurer in May, what things seem to work best and what things should be avoided. They're compiled in a 4-page document, depending on how you've set your printer. Let me I'll just read the headings, not the individual provisions, but first is definitions. What does in writing mean? For example, organization structure, accounting protocols, access to accounting. There we go. They're now shared on the screen. Reporting, minimum account balances, cash handling, transaction records, spending authority, spending tools and methods. And let me just say that several versions of this have been posted because this is a living document and changing all the time. In the last few days, I've added the section on contracts and the revision of standing rules, how these rules are revised. So I hope people have had a chance to look these over, especially those who are interested in how we conduct our financial affairs. And I would invite any questions or comments, and happy to answer any that you have. Corinne, question.
I think I read through it, Peter, and thank you so much for compiling this document and bringing us to where we are with our finances. I mean, if you looked at where we were at 2 years ago, to building a 501c3 with having minimal transactions, to the thriving nonprofit organization we are today, in the financial backing an organization or the financial organization to back what we're doing, I feel like is a really big milestone. So first, I want to put that out there to thank Peter for what you've done to bring us to where we are with our finances.
Thank you. You're welcome.
I think my biggest hang up on the proposal is how fundraising funds are allocated by committee. And I think that the reason I bring this up is because of the Village Park Committee. The way that this was kind of now organically rolled out is the way the Village Park is rolled out is that anything we fundraise for Village Park should stay within a Village Park budget because it is such an independent project, and it is collaborated with multiple nonprofits, and we are doing we are owning the finances for all these other nonprofits on this project. And so I think that's my biggest hang up, is if I continue to run this project to make sure that the funds within Village Park that are fundraised for Village Park stay within that project. And I don't think that falls directly in the bylaws. So go ahead or with your new standing rules. So go ahead and talk me through that.
No, not in this case. Yeah, we've chatted about this a little bit, Corinne, and I do, for every transaction that comes in, both revenue and expense, I code it to either a committee or a project or an activity. So we always know what has come in and what has gone out through that program. My bigger responsibility is that the organization as a whole stay healthy. So as I like to explain to people, you know, a surplus on an activity statement, what you've brought in and what you've spent is not the same as cash in the bank. And what we're limited by in some cases is cash in the bank. Now, our financial position right now is stronger than it was a few months ago, even, and a lot stronger than it was as the calendar year opened. So I'm confident that that you will always have the funds that you need to execute on that project.
Mhm.
I'll be more excited about that when I see a budget for the project. But and I know I know the challenge is there, believe me. But I have to and I want to give other committees who haven't been as active the opportunity to do some work, do some projects that they're
Mhm.
interested in. And so I have to honor all those parties that are competing for limited funds, you know, at based on cash in hand.
Okay, I think that makes sense, and I appreciate the prioritization of the organization as a whole. My follow-up to that, however, is while I'm fundraising and the ethics of fundraising, and I think this was explained to me when we did the street art project through and Civic Life walked us through our grant and our fundraising, is that if somebody donates with the expectation that the money is going to go to something like, you know, we'll get to this when we talk about Spring Garden Park, like those funds are allocated towards Spring Garden Park. So if I'm asking people to donate towards Village Park and I'm telling them that that's where their money's going to go, I want to be able to do that ethically and know that that money is going to go to Village Park.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, technically,
Yes.
if money is technically donated as donor restricted, then that it can only be spent on that purpose. It becomes a little mushier when it's not a documented donation, when it's not, you know, the money that goes into a tip jar.
Mhm.
Sure, you guys get, you know, that's Village Park money, but it's not technically restricted. I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And I know that there is a lot of extra work that comes on your end to maintain all of the different committees and the projects. So that's part of it. But I think I just want to hear that, like, ethically, if we're asking for it and it is a tracked donation, that I can tell somebody who donates, say, $500 towards Village Park, that it'll maintain within that project. Okay.
Corinne, you're like speaking my language. So Peter, please make it easy for committee people to make that differentiation. So when Corinne
Mhm.
has somebody willing to write a check for $500, that she gives them the right guidance, right? Restricted to Village Park, or just give us the terminology. So
Yeah,
other
as an
than tip jars,
example.
we need that,
Mhm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Mhm.
I'll need that too.
Yeah. And you know, the
Absolutely.
health of our general fund and the M&A in general is also a priority to me, because I couldn't do these projects without the health of the M&A. So I know that we need to fundraise for the M&A as a whole as well. But when I have to work on a really big project, like we're going to get our site concept design, this is going offline or off subject a little bit, and it's probably going to be a pretty sizable fundraising bill that I'm going to have to, or fundraising tab that I'm going to have to rack up for this project. And I just want to make sure that I've got the right verbiage for my donors, and good communication with you, and know that our rules will support that. I can tell somebody that this is going towards Village Park.
Yeah,
yeah.
you
Okay.
bet. Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay.
Peter, we'll have the same question because Stevens Creek Crossing said that they will have funds to give to the garden project that the Land Use Committee is working on. So we'll have the same situation.
Beth, this is Moses. Julie and I have the same question. Who? This is Stevens Creek Crossing and the Garden Project?
Yeah, Julie knows that. She's been there.
Who has, she's asking who has the money. I'm going to hand her the mic.
Stevens Creek Crossing said that they have some funds to donate to, you know, the problem we're having that right now is that they're trying to nail down volunteers, resident volunteers. So we are not willing to get involved in the project unless they have resident volunteers who are committed to working on it and keeping the garden up and all of that. So, but they did say, Nasser said that they have some monies to contribute to making the garden happen.
Wonderful.
Great.
I said that we did too, because, you know, we have $150 right now that we could put toward that.
Yeah. That's great. Okay, I get you, Beth. That makes sense.
May I speak on that garden project just briefly?
Sure.
One of the
We'll take
reasons
it-
for them wanting to have volunteers is a community garden is not just getting vegetables, it's a community building project where people who
That's
live there
exact-
get their hands on the ground and get some stuff done. So that's important.
That's what we have been taught. That's what we're committed to. And also, we're committed to being able to plant fruits and vegetables especially, that their indigenous communities use. So when we grow something, they know, oh, this is familiar, and they'll use it, and they'll be committed to wanting to help grow it.
Fantastic. Okay, are there any other comments or is there any other discussion on this topic? I'd like to bring it up to the motion up for a vote. That's fantastic. Okay. Now, reading the motion that is in front of me, that it was in our public folder versus trying to improvise, Beth. Here's
Thank
the
you.
motion. Motion that the board approve these standing rules for financial practices and policies as set forth below. And they're also on the screen right now for one final review. I would ask, so a yay vote would be an approval for the approve the standing rules. A nay vote would be to not approve them. If I may ask if there's anybody in opposition to this motion. Hearing none, I'd like to ask that we accept this motion by acclamation unanimously. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Thank you. Well done, Peter. Well done. Good work. All right. Third. Yes.
That's why. So Beth was voting.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so the third motion that we have, folks, has to do with the dedicated funds that are currently being held by Sweeney, devoted for the Friends of Spring Garden Park. We have there's approximately 20, oh God, how much? I don't have the number. Our treasurer has told me the exact number, 254109. That has been that are restricted funds in the Sweeney checking account that we would like them to transfer over to us. I have acquired, there was a little bit of confusion. We thought we had done it, Tad and I had done it, but what we had done is, at least according to my notes, going back through the emails, is we had submitted all the paperwork that they needed to just transfer any other funds, not specifically the Spring Garden funds. So, and when I went back and I looked at the meeting the minutes that we were trying to document it, it doesn't say Spring Garden, it says transfers of Sweeney. And so they're being kind of sticklers with this, but they're wanting to keep it all on the up and up and keep it legal. So I have in front of me a form, a request to transfer Sweeney restricted account to a neighborhood association form. And it's for the restricted account Friends of Spring Garden Park, the Sweeney named Friends of Spring Garden Park. And I just have to sign this and then also submit to them the minutes of the meeting, tonight's meeting, with our approval of the motion that's on the table. And if I do all that, I can submit it to them tomorrow. We shall have our check to be we'll have our check from Sweeney for the Spring Garden Park monies probably within the next couple of days. And then it'll be in our possession and our responsibility. And it does come with the caveat that we are maintaining the restriction of these funds for the Spring Garden designation. Yes. And to speak to that real quick, I want Peter to talk about that.
Yeah, this is a nuance I want to point out that's on the screen right now. There is a technical difference between donor restricted and board designated. The funds coming over for Spring Garden Park were restricted by the donor's request. These other two little pots of money, $362 for community events general and $81 for land use committee. Those were how those funds were set up under Sweeney, but they were not, they aren't restricted, technically restricted as they come over. Once again, I'd like to honor the original intent, but they are not restricted by a donor for those purposes.
Perfect. Is there any discussion on this motion? Good. Okay, very, very good. Hearing none. Let's go ahead and with the vote with this. Yeah, this is just housekeeping. I agree. And before we have the vote, I do want to thank Tad for all of his efforts to get us to this point. You know, and I think it was just my bad. I thought we had done it, and I guess we had not. So, anywho, let's go ahead. Is there anyone in opposition to this motion? Hearing none, I'd like to propose that we approve this motion by acclamation unanimously. So moved. Fantastic. That is done. I will sign this paperwork. I'm going to sign it right now because I've got the original here in front of me, and under the supervision of our interim treasurer, soon to be permanent treasurer, coming up in November. Let's see here. All right. Well, trust me, I will sign it. I want to make sure I dot my I's and cross my T's on that. Okay. I'll get that ball going for us. Okay. Finally, now we have 2 items of discussion. First off, a discussion of the designation for donor restrict. No, we already did. We just did that. Yes. Okay. So now we have the final topic of the evening, folks, and it's 7:56. We can spend as long as we need to on this discussion. Until 8:30, and we can even wrap up earlier if we feel like we've beat up the subject too much. And that is our neighborhood association goals for 2025. Wow. I just, you know, this has been such an amazing year for our little neighborhood association, and I'm looking forward to this conversation because we have created such a fantastic foundation for our future with all of these different events, between the village park, between the Multnomah Days parade, between what we did with Sunday Parkways, and that's just scratching the surface of it all. One thing I just want to make sure that is on our goals is to upkeep and maintenance of the street art mural, and maybe the repainting of that. That just comes to mind all of a sudden. One thing I would like to do is I'd like to be in year 2 of our year 3 goal to get to that 50K a year of income goal. I know our treasurer doesn't 49,999. He wants to stay under 50K. I appreciate that. But I think, you know, all of these goals need to should be under the auspice of a strong and healthy and relevant neighborhood association. So in that, I'd like to kick off the discussion of this and our goals. I know that we all have some opinions on that. Can I start this out with one of my biggest catalysts on this board, and when it comes to these events that we've been pulling off, and that's Corinne. Corinne, can you share with me your thoughts about what we wanted, what your goals are, what you think our goals should be in 2025?
Yeah, I appreciate that you think I'm the biggest catalyst. My time has greatly been diminished over the last year in the M&A, but I do have lots of ideas, and I don't know if I can always bring them to fruition. But I'll just start with community events. Pam and I met earlier today and discussed what we think we can commit to for the year, and where we have a couple of TBDs. And then I would love to kick it off to Julie, because I know Julie has a ton of ideas, and has lots of things that she'll probably need support with, which I think is where we've been lacking, is supporting our teams. Right now, Village Park and Spring Garden stewardship are things that are going to carry over from this year into next year. Assuming Village Park is still a project that's in the early building stages, to hopefully see a budget come out of it before the end of the fiscal year, for what it'll take for us to actually build out the infrastructure of it. We should be getting a design concept hopefully tomorrow. My fingers are crossed for that, so that we can start to get some bids on what it would cost, and I can start to share a visual tangibly with the rest of our community on what we hope to bring to the community. So Village Park will carry forward. We're committed to sticking with that project. Pam is committed to keeping the Spring Garden stewardship events going, which have been very successful in that park. And then considering the Spring Garden Park money, it'll be great to have those funds. With a to be determined on a concert for all. I think the city of Portland helps sponsor neighborhood associations to bring concerts to the community. And we think Spring Garden Park would be a great location for it, but it's mainly like, do we have the bandwidth to do it? And we'll reassess that come January.
Corinne, is that the Party on
go ahead.
Portland program? Is that the Party on
It's
Portland?
like, I think it's an extension of Party on Portland. It's like free events for all. I don't know if it's exactly the same, but they either do like movies in the park or concerts in the park. And the city gives you lots of resources. And we floated it last year, but we knew like at a minimum it would cost us about $1,000 plus a lot of time. And we didn't quite have that, the funds or the time in time to do it. So we've been holding on to that idea for this year, but we'll just have to evaluate bandwidth and what we can do. But with now that we have these funds for Spring Garden Park, I think it would be great to highlight the stewardship work that Pam has been doing in the park in partnership with the Parks and Recreation, and then to use that funds to bring that event to Spring Garden Park. So that's the TBD. We're hoping to do that. I know Pam would like to do garage sales days again, like a copy and paste of last year. And then knowing better about what it would cost to do it. She estimated it would probably cost about $700, about $100 in advertising and about $600 upfront in signage. That hopefully the whole event would pay for itself plus a little bit extra for general funds, but it would be a self-funded event generally. With the idea of like, if there are any extra services that we would like to add to that event, we should talk about it and make sure we have a meeting about it. But essentially the idea is copy and paste from last year, but with a suggested donation of about $10 per household that participates. We kind of talked through if it was a higher dollar amount, then it might drive people to participate, but not donate or not get on the map or not get a sign. So trying to keep people within a window of like $10 is a reasonable amount, I think, for people to donate. But if you also don't make a ton at your garage sale, you're not pissed off for paying $25 to the M&A for it. So we felt like $10 was a good place to start for year two. And then the street mural event, there's been some emails between community events and the neighborhood around the street mural to bring that back for next year and trying to identify timing and what the logistics would look like. But the committee met last year, we kind of made a verbal commitment that we would repaint it come 2025, smaller scale, probably no grant, fundraise for the paint. And do a smaller event, but to bring that mural back to life and to reinforce it. So those are the main things that we're committing to for this year. Pam and I both have greatly diminished volunteer hours than where we used to have. Our kids are in different phases. We have looking for different opportunities to potentially work. I know this is on a recorded call, but my husband was recently diagnosed with thyroid cancer. And so we're working on that. And so there's just a diminished level of time that we have, I think, to donate towards the M&A. And so we're trying to be very, very strategic about where we put that time, which is hard. It's hard to say no to ideas that come through to community events because we love to say yes to things and love to bring things to the neighborhood. So
I'm so sorry to
thank you, Julie.
very sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm sorry if I've been less available lately because I've been focusing inward towards my family a little bit more, but still want to do great things for the community. Does anybody have any questions or any call outs about those? So Village Park, street mural, garage sale days, Spring Garden stewardship with a possible concert event in the summer of Concert Free for All. Any call outs or any questions about those main events that we hope to establish or stay committed to for the year?
I just will say that garage sale, I don't know if you realize how much people really enjoyed that. That was, and I'm I've received a bunch of emails from people, oh, make
Mhm.
sure I get the notice next year, that want to
Yeah.
participate in it.
Yeah.
So it has the potential to be really a big deal annual event.
And it is, Pam put a ton of work into that, but she was able to do it mostly remotely. It was kind of an experiment last year that can absolutely be self-funded this year, with hopefully a little extra funding that goes towards general. And it also, I think it does bring it, it's a huge community event. It involves a lot of neighbors. People enjoy doing it. It's just a really big win for I wouldn't say minimal effort, but it's not like a parade or like some of the big events that Village Park put on, or that Business Association put on. Like, it's not low effort, but manageable effort for a really big, impactful event in the neighborhood. And that also the Business Association, I think, also wants to partner with us on this year and do like sidewalk sales and that kind of thing. So I think it's another nonprofit community building organizational event.
Hey, Corinne, what about Earth Day and the Holiday Gala? Do you guys have any ideas?
Yeah, thank you. You know what? I will continue my liaison work with the Business Association, largely just to maintain that relationship. And I haven't thought too much, but I imagine that we'll probably want to do a solve event again. And I think that'll have to be a meeting with our group to see who can take it on, where we can expand
that for you.
volunteer hours. Where we can do volunteer hours, and then we'll stay in touch with booth events. And I think those things will have to be maybe if we have a quarterly board meeting, we can preempt some of those events and all right, maybe each committee takes on, somebody owns Multnomah Days, Sunday Parkways, somebody owns Earth Day, somebody owns Holiday. And as committees, we kind of rotate through who owns booth staffing and how much we want to participate in it. Because to be honest, I feel like we did the best that we could this year, and it was kind of a scramble for all of them. 2 years ago, it was learning and we scrambled to get it together. But I think from community events, we would have liked to perform better on those. And I think we were just too lean on bandwidth to do it really, really well. And so I think if we can kind of divide that labor between the M&A, or committees can kind of take on all right, I own this, blah, 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 I own this. And then to the point about Holiday, there's talk about Village Park trying to be involved in a holiday somewhere. Will, I want to get offline with you and talk. I know this is still 2024, but I want to talk and see if SWEC can get involved in bringing a more inclusive, not just having a Christmas tree lighting, but something that's more inclusive. Yep. The Business Association has been talking about that for years in our event planning meetings, but we just haven't been able to do it yet. We don't have anybody that can step up. And I was like, I bet SWEC would be willing to get involved and help us plan something that's a more inclusive holiday event that's not just Christmas tree lighting. And so, Will, I would love to talk to you more a little about that.
That is such a good idea, Corinne.
Yeah.
I tip of the hat. What we're
Um,
talking about here, I just have to comment this to everybody. What we are talking about here is what I've always said about trying to train our replacements. And we need to really make an appeal in 2025 to get more volunteers coming in now that we have a good track record and we have a calendar of upcoming events that people can start to choose from.
Yeah.
I think we really need to start getting aggressive. And when I say aggressive, I mean, try to get more people to want to volunteer with us.
Mhm.
Man,
We got to find.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great idea, Moses. Sorry, real quick, I'll say this, Will, and then we'll get to your hand, Will. If we did have that calendar of events, I'm so glad that we're talking about 2025 and not just all right, we got something coming up in 3 weeks, let's pull our S together and try to figure this out, that we can start to recruit volunteers for X event and get some people to sign up to help with some of those things and be more proactive about it. So I'm glad you said that, Moses. That clicked with me. Will, you had your hand up?
I did, because that basically what you said leads right into what Moses was talking about. Because what I see that we should focus on is on membership, more members, more diverse membership, and more active membership. And one of the things that lets that happen is building on the events that Corinne has talked about, and the energy and excitement where dozens of people show up and participate actively builds all of that active membership.
Mhm.
There's some technical things we need to do. I have drafted a membership welcome letter, which I'm not sure which committee gets it. Maybe it's Ted's, to say, which goes into what it's like to be a member. But certainly having an active event, something that you can get your hands dirty on or get a really direct involvement, is absolutely critical.
Mhm.
When I looked at what they call the analytics of our website, it tells where do people go when they
Mhm.
click on something in the newsletter, and where do they go and which pages of the website. It is overwhelmingly different events, different activities they're doing. There's not much interest in going to the meetings website and things like that. So what we're doing is building the kind of neighborhood association that I think is a good model, which represents the whole neighborhood in ways that people relate to and actually get that involved, and we're not burning out the tiny group of people who come to the board. Very important.
Yeah.
All right, Peter would like to say something.
Some of you have heard me articulate a vision I've had for how we can concentrate our efforts, given that our bandwidth and our active membership is so narrow right now. And my belief is that when people come to our events, you call them visitors, call them whatever you like, and especially people who have worked in the booths have heard me harp on this. The three things we need to capture for every encounter in the booth is would you like to get our mailing, our newsletter? Can we put you on the mailing list for our newsletter? Would you like to make a donation to help support what we do? And what are your interests? What are you most interested in? Well, my bigger picture is we cultivate those visitors so that they become volunteers. Then our volunteers, we cultivate them to become members. We cultivate our members to become donors. We cultivate our donors to become committee members, and we cultivate our committee members to be board members. But we have to start with the initial contact that we make with our friends and neighbors, and get them hooked. And I think we're good at it, but we're not systematic about it. And when Will says we have to get more members and more active members, yeah, I agree, but that's like the fourth step to me.
Yeah.
And to that point exactly, Will, there was a woman when I was doing fairy hair, and you said, "Would you like to be a member of the Multnomah Neighborhood Association?" And she physically stepped back, and she's like, "Whoa, I got kids, I got this, I got that." I go, "No. What project do you want to help with? That's it. We'll be friends. We'll just be friends. First one's free. It's like drugs, like just let's just do it that way." Because by saying the word member, I just think no way. But something I care about puppies, I care about children, I care about trash, whatever. I completely agree with you. The word member is scary, but what project you want to help with is a lot more fun and less
Yeah,
stressful.
I take that. That's the sense of what I was talking about. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Well, I think, all of the projects that we have as goals for 2025 do depend on volunteerism,
Mhm.
and I'm kind of hearing that should be almost our number one priority, or our main objective is to improve the volunteerism. Right.
I
And
think
then, because everything kind of shoots off from that.
yeah, I think having like a volunteer calendar on all of, like, we have events
Ooh,
that we
that's a good
invite
idea.
people to come out to, but having like a volunteer calendar where
Amen.
people could sign up for what we need help with. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
When I was working for the Democratic Party in Southern California, we had a volunteer coordinator, and that was quite helpful to have that person have a file of past people who had signed up, people who had signed up but weren't doing anything, people who could be recruited for particular projects, and I don't know if we have bandwidth for anybody to take that job on, or if our organization might be interested in even having that.
I think that would be awesome.
Well, we need to at least the first step in actualization is to speak it out to the universe, and that's what we've just done here. I think that's a hell of an idea, Beth, heck of an idea, the idea of a volunteer coordinator. Now ironically, that volunteer coordinator would need to be a volunteer, but I think if we can find somebody that could do that, it could work.
Well, I would nominate Peter as the guiding light on that, whether he does the work or not, but those ideas he you got those things in sort of a reverse order, Peter. The number one is, what are you interested in? Which is the thing that the Perry Hair people and other people like that. What do you care about that you want to deal with, and see how we can help that happen?
And by the
don't
way,
know.
we have had people that have come up recently. We had Claire, we had Andy, we had Julia. I mean, we have had people who have actively said, I want to actively help M&A, like actively.
Yep.
I think, Julie, if you would take that on as part of your secretary role, because you
In
have
my
all the
copious
records.
free time.
Yeah.
Well,
I think that would be a natural fit for the secretary
Yeah.
for
Well-
now, until we find a volunteer coordinator.
Yeah.
I think, we're all going to have to play a little bit of a
Yeah,
role in
whatever.
that. I once again, it's kind of a number one priority here for the health and longevity.
There's one person, there would
Yeah.
have to be one person in charge to keep the records of it. And I think, Julie, you're out and about pretty much more than anybody, talking to people, doing
She does
things,
have a
recruiting
point.
people, graffiti and
Sorry to-
trash and all of that. So I think that, I know maybe I'm putting something on you that you just totally don't want. I just think that it
That
would
could
be
be.
easiest to take
Could
that
be.
on for now.
Hey, this is Peter, and I kind of want to close this discussion by asking, first of all, if there are any wonderful ideas out there that you think we can act on, but also that, Julie? I've got a couple too. Oh, okay, yeah. Let me just say, this afternoon, I built a list of the 12 or 14 things that we're already doing, and another 24 ideas that have been suggested to me as I've had conversations with board members, so. And I'm not going to go through them all tonight, but I will post them.
I'm going to throw a whole bunch of stuff at you guys really fast in no order. So I'm sorry for that. I should have been more thoughtful, but tough. So in no particular order, Halloween is next. Riversgate used to do a photo booth in front, kitty corner to Starbucks for kids. And then the dentist across the street from Riversgate used to do it. Neither are doing them this year, and that made me mad and sad. So M&A is doing it. I was able to get So we have a professional photographer volunteering, and she has a website that will be able to upload the photos. People will get a little flyer that we hand out. It'll have the website and, M&A Halloween 2024. They'll be able to upload their own children's photos. And the investment from M&A is going to be maybe $100 for a couple of hay bales and some pumpkins. So far, it's Julia, Julie, and the photographer. I'd love one other human being that doesn't have a child under, 15. That if Moses, if you want to do it, that's lovely. I just need one other person. So that'll be done, and that'll be our first annual. People love that stuff. I'm going to move on to I want to in 2025 do a free puzzle library permanent installation at the bottom of Spring Garden Park. It's currently, I want it to be a community event. We'll be doing building of the wood, getting the wood donated. We'll fund it. We'll build it. We'll have people paint it. We'll do those types of things.
Julie, are you aware of the one that's already there, or is that what you're building?
Oh yeah, my husband and I have to keep replacing them when they get stolen. So yes,
You've been doing that. Okay.
yeah. So the Coin Cottage, we do have a local artist that's asking for permission to work with the community to paint the Coin Cottage wall. We want to do that first. The Coin Cottage is just asking for some drawing examples from the artist. His name is Andy. He lives close by. And if that goes forward, that's lovely. If they, for whatever reason, don't agree to it, we'll have Corinne and some of these other people in the community will have other locations for that. I'd like,
Would this, excuse me, would this be a mural or just painting it?
mural.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Beth, you may remember we had talked about doing a mural back in the early aughts
Yeah.
or in the early teens. And there's a wall that goes down 34th that is
Yes.
arts, but it's a beautiful location for a mural. Let's just put it that way. And it's one of the few locations for a mural. So that this artist is willing to do it.
I've
Moses,
been
is
told
that the
that-
wall that's on the side of the like art center building? Or the art center lot?
Correct, but it's
Yeah.
down the street. If you go down that street, it's just a blank wall, cement wall that
Yeah,
gets
like-
large. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
The
there's been
downhill of-
support from Michael, who's the
Right.
director at the art center. He floated that a long time ago, so I know there's
Correct.
support. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So
I've been
it's
told
just,
that-
it's a perfect little canvas.
I've been
Well, they
told
have
that-
people that take art. I mean, there are artists who take classes there, so
Mhm.
there might be other people there who are interested in doing that.
Well, if
like
I may,
where-
I won't bore you with the rest of this stuff, but there's a lot, DIY graffiti removal workshops, et cetera, which brings me up to my last point, which is, my husband and I made a financial donation today of $4,000 to the M&A for general funds. So Peter can
Okay.
run with scissors with that.
oh, boy.
We also
Wow.
received we're also receiving a grant right now for $1,500 from another nonprofit for use specifically for the livability subcommittee for, it's like, I forget, $700 is for trash, $400 graffiti, $400 is for Peter and recycling, things like that. So I'm bringing this up because I think that the 2025 goals, we need those volunteers because we can do important things. My question is, how can we ask the community and create excitement on what these things is? In my mind,
Mhm.
we somehow create a list that we all approve, right? Of whatever, 10 projects, 15 projects, 2 projects, and then do survey monkeys, do, whiteboards in the street, do, little voting things at Starbucks, whatever. How do you want M&A to do this? Do you want it to go to murals? Do you want it to go to graffiti? Do you want it to go here? Do you want it to go there? And then be able to know that the community supports the projects that we're doing, so we're not doing it in a vacuum. And that's what I got.
God forbid some transparency and some collaboration.
Love it, Julie.
I
think
do.
Will had a question, I think, on livability.
Well,
He
it
was trying to
wasn't,
chime
it
in.
was a comment, but again, make the comment that murals have been one of the most effective anti-graffiti tools
Yeah.
around. If you look at, there's a mural on Capitol Highway just going out of Hillsdale over the viaduct, right where Terwilliger is, which was a graffitied wall for years, and they did this mural, and it's been, as far as I know, clean of them. It's a very effective thing. And back to, and I want to build on this, the interest-based approach to getting things done, the enthusiasm. I've watched Julie with the fairy hair and other places, the Christmas program, selling M&A in a way that builds on the people's interest to begin with, rather than trying to impose an interest that's not theirs, which is one of the keys to getting it done. I want to have a membership. I want you to come to a meeting. You really got to come to a meeting. That's where the excitement is. Kind of not. But where the excitement is, where the energy goes, that energy is infectious.
Mhm.
That's what we're
Wow.
talking about.
And what's really beautiful about this, folks, and it's all about being relevant. It's all about being relevant. And it's been my goal as your president to make our neighborhood association relevant in the community.
Well,
And it takes these types of time investments, these projects for everyone to feel like they're a part of it all. Okay, let me very quickly wrap up
But
by
Been
giving
here
my,
for-
go for
Moses.
it, Beth. Yes, please.
We haven't really talked about how we're going to have diversity work in all of this, and I think
Yes.
that's really important. Yesterday afternoon, I was at Walgreens to pick up a prescription, and there was a woman there. She saw that I had a Jewish star on. She said, "I like your star." We got in a conversation. She was wearing a Jewish star and something or other Jewish thing tucked under her shirt. She was afraid to bring it out. And that's sad. I mean, we talked for a very long time, and I hope that by the time we left, she was thinking she could wear her star outside of her shirt. But we need to make ourselves available to everybody who feels, not just Jews, but
Yeah.
everybody who feels unsafe in our neighborhood.
Amen, Beth. I think, you know,
I-
and I think that's got to be our North Star when it comes to developing these programs. Tad, hello. Go ahead, Tad. I see your hand up.
An announcement from the nominating committee. Reminder that our next elections will be at our November meeting. The nominating committee is building a slate for that election that we want to present at the October meeting. So to all board members and members and officers, to the three officers, Julie, Moses, Beth, please let me know if you're available to be reelected. To other board members, please let me know if you want to be reelected to the board. And with Will's help, I'll be sending an email to all regular members asking them the same thing.
Tad, thank you very much for reminding us of that. That's absolutely right. We've got elections coming up, and October is the 30-day mark. The October meeting is the 30-day mark for the elections. Julie, what date is our November meeting? What's the date of that
12th.
meeting? The 12th. And right. And what's the date of the October meeting?
8th,
The 8th? Okay.
it's coming up quick.
It is coming up quick. And the reports are in January the 1st. I will say this, I just, as your president, you know, and as all of you know, I'm running for Portland City Council. If I get elected to the city council, it probably would not be prudent for me to be running as president of the neighborhood association.
Hey, it gives us an in. What do you mean?
It sure would. You get the in either way. But the idea is, I do want to at least put that out there for folks. I mean, otherwise I am going to run. I'd like to run again. And we've created such a good team of folks here. I'd hate for it to go down to not happen. If I may just wrap up this conversation about the events, about the goals for 2025 by just throwing out 3 things that I wanted to see us, have us consider. First off is the Multnomah Historical Society. We've been approached by Patty.
Whitman Ingebrigtsen.
Yes, thank you. She is getting a little older and she can't sustain the Historical Society anymore, and is asking for help to try to come up with a solution for her materials and for the group in general. I think that it could be absorbed into the neighborhood association. I'd like to think it would, but it kind of leads to my next point, and that is, you know, the M&A office space fantasy that I've always had, that we had a permanent office space somewhere here in the village.
Yeah.
That office space would be an ideal location for a historical society display. And I just want to see just want to put it out there to the universe that would be a good use of the office space. And it would help to guarantee traffic into it.
Yeah.
If we had a historical set up there, if we had the history of Multnomah there. So those are
Moses,
2. Yeah, Beth.
Is the parks? I'm sorry for jumping in. I don't know about raising hands. Did the Parks Department get back to you about your request for us to be able to use the old Sweeney office?
Yeah, they did, and they would not give it to. I had applied for a grant to pay for the office space at the Multnomah Arts Center. It was a grant through the Parks Department, and they did not give it to us. They would
Oh,
not
that's-
give us, they would not rent us that, they would not give us that rent, that office space, just give it to us as a part of that grant. So, but now that doesn't preclude us from just getting an office there if we can afford it and if it makes sense to. So I just want to put that out into the universe. We can have further conversations on it. And then the last one I want to bring up, pardon me, is what I'm kind of calling Overpass Park. Underneath the overpass, right there by Handy Andy's, there is on Multnomah Boulevard, there is a little grassway, a park there, and well, the viaduct park.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And there's a
Mhm.
Multnomah Village, welcome to Multnomah Village sign there. For years, Randy Bonella would maintain that property. And now the responsibility of maintaining that property is been taken on by this woman here locally. Her name is Julia. We saw her at Sunday Parkways, Julie and I did. And with the intention of communicating with her to see if what we can do there. You know, how we can help her manage that property and turn it into and maintain that property. We're just at the very early stages of discussion with it, but it's a beautiful little location. It's a very visible location, and it kind of goes to it's accessible, safely accessible because of it's it's got the stairs that come up. So yeah,
Those stairs are not accessible, but that's another story.
yeah, but that's another story. Not accessible, not fully ADA accessible. That's the problem. That's the challenge. Whoa. Anywho, point is that that's another project that we might want to I think we should tackle because it's kind of exciting with there. Julie's chair just broke. Oh my
Ooh.
goodness.
Ouch.
Okay, and last but not least, Peter.
Yeah, so here are a couple
Yeah.
ideas. I call them, one is a 3-year idea and the other is a 10-year idea. I've talked to several employees of businesses in Multnomah about would they appreciate having the eligibility to membership expanded to include them? And everyone said, yeah. So I'd like to think about adding employees of Multnomah businesses as possible members. And
So you
here's
would
the
not-
here's the 10-year project, and that is that I think we could play a seminal and important role in securing a West Side emergency resource center.
Oh,
All right, I love it. Thinking big. Okay, so we have 2 more people to talk, and then we're going to wrap this meeting up. First, Corinne, then Will.
Thank you, Moses. I appreciate all of your suggestions, and I just have a couple things to comment on or to add to. So for office space, one for when the Historical Society emails came through, I immediately thought of the new location of Neighborhood House. When Peter took us through a tour there, we had great dialogue with Mari about what they're trying to do with the upstairs space, which is kind of available, I think. And I think Historical Society could potentially use it for storage at a very low cost, I think. So it might be worth a few people getting in contact with Mari, and then there's potential for the M&A to use office space there potentially. So just
Great
put
idea,
that
Corinne.
on the
Thank you.
radar. And then Julia, who does the underpass park, she has been to a couple business association meetings and has brought that up. And I know that she is looking for help. So I'm really glad that you guys connected with her, because I think that is public land. I'm pretty sure that's PBOT right away. So like we could, like right now I'm turning Village Park into a park, but it's still private land. We could turn that into at least somewhat of a legit park space. So I think it's worth continuing the dialogue on that.
Right
And then
on.
Peter, I support the West Side Emergency Center, and I know a lot of neighbors would. I think that's a pretty hot topic that kind of came out of the woodwork when the Safe Rest Village moved into the Armory, since that was technically supposed to be emergency center location. So I think that's hot topic, and I bet a lot of people would get on board with that. Yeah.
All right, last but not least, Will, you have the floor.
Okay, just briefly, I'll piggyback on what's been said because we're still wandering around a theme here, which is pretty strong, because we're putting the details to make it happen, which is important. I'd take what I said earlier about members and change the word to volunteers. First of all, I endorse Peter's idea of if you work in the village, you can be a member of the association. That's a great idea. But we're talking about more volunteers, a more diverse volunteer base, which means what we as an organization do has to be more sensitive to different ways of doing things. And finally, a more active group. The energy and the word relevance that Moses mentioned, I would substitute the word energy. Who has energy to do it? And what builds energy in people? Because that's why you do it. You have 24 hours in a day. Which way you spend them really has to do with what you get excited about and maybe what you have to do to make bread on the table. But it's really where you get a pleasure in being associated with us, where it's not just a duty or dealing with some horrible controversy. Really good energy, and let's keep it up.
I-
I have one last thing that I forgot to mention. I was just looking at my notes here.
Sure.
I would like to propose, and I think this is the right place to do it, since we've got a lot of good ideas here, and it's something that we could probably drop on the calendar, is to have a quarterly meeting like this. As a committee chair, I feel like I've missed board meetings because this is where you recruit you bounce ideas off of each other, you recruit volunteers. We get support from each other in it. And I think that's been a big lack. And I think we're missing transparency among all the different things that we have going on with our committees. And so I'd like to pitch like either every other month or at least a quarterly board meeting where we can talk through this stuff.
Corinne, you must be psychic because Peter and I were talking about
Cool.
every other month for this special meeting.
Awesome.
It does make sense. I don't want to have a monthly special meeting. I don't think we need to do this monthly, but I do think we need to do this at a minimum every other month.
Yeah.
And I think the objective of that meeting would be short, sweet, touch base kind of a meeting. I don't think we need to, it
Yeah.
shouldn't take us an hour, but an hour to get it all done. And you know what the side benefit of doing that is it's going to make our time at the general meeting much more efficient, and we can have things that will appeal to the general public more. So like the guest speakers, and because we'll have taken care of the business at the special board meeting.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
agree.
Does
Yeah,
it make
it's-
sense to build an action plan based on what we started talking about here? So we used our priorities there to look and review and see how they're doing, what's changed. And so we know a broad view and with strong details of what we are doing in 2025, where everyone can see it. It's on paper and we're going it. Yep.
Hey, well, I've noted a lot of things in my meeting notes, and if Peter then complements it with his list,
Yeah.
it'll be like the bottom of my purse, right? It's like a mess.
Oh.
It's got a bunch of stuff in there, but you can find some Tic Tacs if you're looking for them. So I just don't know how to organize it. But I mean, I think we need to start, and we'll just laugh at how, we didn't know what we were doing in Q4 of 2024. But yeah, I think we need to start. I just don't know
Cool.
what that looks like.
I think, having it in the minutes and having it documented is the first step.
Yeah.
I think then the next step is that we've got to start to prioritize and figure out what we can and cannot do. I mean, there's pros and cons to each of the projects that we have proposed tonight, that all of us have proposed, and a price tag. I think our highest priority needs to make sure that we maintain the ones that we have, and then selectively pick and choose on the ones that we want to take on. Based off of the manpower and the volunteerism. And okay, one last comment.
I move we adjourn.
I'm entertaining a motion to adjourn, and I have a second from my secretary. So moved. I'm not hearing any dissension. I'm hearing no votes. So by acclamation, we are adjourned. All right, good deal.